My family was invited to the opening party of my dream restaurant, but they never showed up. When I called my sister, she laughed cold and said, "Oh? Was that today? I'd tell close down soon anyway, lol." My mother yelled, "Don't bother us," and then they regretted it. I spent my whole life chasing a dream, but on the most important day, the people who should have been by my side never showed up, and then they regretted it. Los Angeles at night shimmered like a jewel, the lights from towering skyscrapers reflecting off the glistening ocean. I stood in front of the glass doors of Lumiere, the restaurant I had sacrificed everything to build. Its name glowed softly under the neon lights, like a dream finally coming true. But in the moment when I should have felt the happiest, all I felt was emptiness. The most important people in my life, they weren't there. My name is Sienna Hayes, 32 years old, a chef who had spent her youth in the blazing kitchens of New York. I was once the head chef at one of Manhattan's most prestigious five-star restaurants. People called me a culinary genius, someone who could transform the simplest ingredients into exquisite dishes. But no matter how many awards I won, no matter how much praise I received from the industry in my family's eyes, I was still just a dreamer chasing a profession they deemed unworthy. My dream didn't begin in glamorous kitchens. It started in a small home kitchen, where my grandmother Margaret Hayes taught me to cook with all the love she had. I remember those summer evenings when I was a little girl, her hands guiding mine as we kneaded dough together, as she told me stories of cuisines from around the world. "Cooking isn't just cooking, Sienna, it's how you tell your story." She believed in me, but she was gone now. And the rest of my family, they never believed in me at all. I was born into a family that had no interest in the culinary arts or creative expression. To them, success had only one definition: money, power, and prestige. My father, Daniel Hayes, a former hedge fund executive who only trusted numbers, to him, being a chef was nothing more than manual labor, an inferior career compared to the solid financial empire he had built. My mother, Eleanor Hayes, a renowned interior designer who valued social status above all else. She never hid her disappointment when I dropped out of business school to pursue culinary arts. My younger brother Liam Hayes, a luxury real estate broker and the true pride of the family, he constantly bragged about his million-dollar deals, his extravagant lifestyle, and never hesitated to mock me whenever I talked about my dream of opening a restaurant. 3 months ago, I sat across from them at a fancy restaurant in Beverly Hills, a dinner that was supposed to be a happy occasion, but instead became a bitter reminder of my place in this family. "Are you really planning to spend your whole life working in a kitchen like some hired help?" My mother scoffed, swirling her expensive wine. "Restaurants are one of the riskiest investments." My father shook his head. "Do you seriously think you can compete with the big names in LA? Liam chuckled, his voice dripping with condescension. I didn't argue. I simply placed my utensils down, looked at them for a long moment and thought to myself, just wait and see. After years of working in some of New York's toughest kitchens, I knew I was ready. I walked away from a 6-figure salary, left a stable job, and risked everything from my dream, my own restaurant. I chose Los Angeles as my battleground, a city where only the best could survive. But I wasn't afraid. I had found an old building in West Hollywood, once an art gallery, and I knew this would be Lumiere. I poured every last cent I had into it, took out bank loans, even mortgaged my assets just to have enough to open. My family had no idea what I had sacrificed. I hired the best chefs, including a sous chef who had worked at a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I curated a menu that reflected my soul, including my signature truffle risotto, a dish my grandmother once taught me. I designed the space so that every corner radiated warmth and elegance, just like the name Lumiere, which means light. The night before the grand opening, I stood alone in the empty restaurant, gazing at the perfectly set tables, the wine glasses glimmering under the chandeliers. I sent an invitation to my family. "Tomorrow is the most important day of my life. If possible, I would really love for you to be there." The message was marked as read, but there was no response. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Tomorrow I would step into a new chapter. With or without them, the most important day of my life had arrived. I had dreamed of this day for years, but there was one thing I never expected. The hollow feeling of looking around and realizing they didn't come. I woke up at 5 a.m., not because of an alarm, but because of the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Today was the day I had been waiting for my whole life. When I arrived at Lumiere, the restaurant was already lit up. My kitchen, the heart of Lumiere, was coming to life. Maria, my sous chef, was inspecting the fresh seafood delivered from the California coast. James, the restaurant sommelier, was organizing the collection of imported French wines. "Good morning, chef," a voice called from the bar. I turned and saw my entire staff smiling at me, eyes gleaming with energy. They believed in me. I gripped my knife tightly and stepped into the kitchen. 6 p.m. Guests started arriving. Luxury cars lined up in front of Lumiere, camera flashes flickering constantly. The city's elite had gathered. Michelle Parker, food critic from the Los Angeles Times. David Kingston, a renowned Hollywood director. Oliver Crane, CEO of a luxury hotel chain. I stood at the entrance shaking hands and smiling at each guest. I felt like an artist stepping onto the stage for the most important performance of my life. "This space is incredible, Sienna. This restaurant is truly a masterpiece," Michelle Parker remarked as she stepped inside. I discreetly glanced at my phone. No messages, no calls. They didn't come. I told myself, it's okay. Tonight is about me, not them. The grand opening exceeded all expectations. Appetizer, caviar tartlet with lemon cream left guests in awe. Main course, signature truffle risotto praised by critics as a masterpiece of elegance. Dessert, dark chocolate soufflé with Grand Marnier, a showstopper that enchanted every palate. Compliments echoed throughout the restaurant. I saw Michelle Parker meticulously jotting notes in her leather-bound journal, something she only did for truly outstanding establishments. But all the praise in the world couldn't fill the emptiness inside me. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. My throat was dry. I couldn't believe it. Not a single message, not a single word of congratulations. They truly didn't care. As the evening wound down, I quietly slipped away from the main hall and into the kitchen. Needing a moment to breathe where no one could see me, I picked up my phone and dialed Liam. After 3 rings, he answered, "What do you want?" His voice was impatient. "You're not coming." I tried to keep my voice steady. Liam chuckled. "You really thought I'd skip a VIP client event just to see your little restaurant?" I clenched my phone. "Liam, this isn't just a restaurant. This is my dream." He scoffed. "Your dream doesn't make me money. Look, enjoy your night, but don't expect us to care." And with that, he hung up. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to steady my breathing. I scrolled through my contacts and called Mom. She picked up after 2 rings. "What is it?" Jazz music played in the background, mingling with the clinking of crystal glasses. A lavish party. "Mom, today is my restaurant's grand opening." "Oh, right. I forgot. But anyway, I'm at a fashion event. You know how packed my schedule is." I tightened my grip on the phone, trying to keep my voice calm. A simple congratulations would have been enough. She sighed. "Sienna, don't be so sensitive. Real success isn't a small restaurant. If you want to do something meaningful, think about investment finance. Come on, don't make a fuss over something so trivial." A single tear slid down my cheek. "This isn't trivial, Mom. This is my life. I don't have time for this." And then she hung up. I stood in the kitchen for a long time. No one saw me cry. No one knew how deeply I was hurting. But then I took a deep breath, wiped the tears from my face, adjusted my apron, and walked back outside. I didn't need them to succeed. I had Lumiere. I had my team. I had customers who believed in me. I stepped onto the stage where my entire staff had gathered ready to toast. "I just want to say one thing." I smiled, raising my champagne glass. "We did it, and this is only the beginning." The restaurant erupted in cheers. The grand opening was a success, but I knew the real journey had just begun. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight streamed through Lumiere's glass windows, I was already in the kitchen. The restaurant still carried the scents of the night before, the lingering aroma of truffle, wine, and chocolate clinging to the table linens. But I didn't have time to dwell on it. The day after opening is the true test. The restaurant's phone started ringing. "Good morning, Lumiere. How can I assist you?" "Jessica," my receptionist answered. As I walked past the front desk, I heard her say, "I'm very sorry, but we're fully booked until next month." I froze. No way. But it was true. The reservation list was completely filled within just one night. 2 days after the grand opening, I held a copy of the Los Angeles Times in my hands. Right there on the front page of the food section was the headline, "Lumiere, a shining gem in Los Angeles, where cuisine becomes art." Michelle Parker, the most powerful food critic in LA, had written an extensive review where she described my signature truffle risotto as a flawless blend of tradition and modernity, imbued with the bold signature of a fearless chef. This is not just a meal, it's an experience. I put the newspaper down my chest, swelling with joy, and just a touch of bittersweet longing. Did they see this? Did they finally see that their daughter wasn't just some ordinary cook? I picked up my phone. No messages from my family. I laughed. It didn't matter. I didn't need them. I had the world watching me now. After the Los Angeles Times review, everything moved like a whirlwind. Forbes called me the rising star of American cuisine. Vogue featured a photo shoot of Lumiere, dubbing it the place everyone wants a table at. The Hollywood Reporter listed Lumiere among the top 10 must-visit restaurants of the year. The reservation line never stopped ringing. The waitlist extended to 6 months. And then the celebrities started arriving. Emma Thompson, the Oscar-winning actress, praised my Maine lobster with saffron butter sauce. David Kingston, the renowned director, declared, "If any place deserves 3 Michelin stars, it's Lumiere." Gordon Ramsay posted on Instagram, "It's been a long time since a meal has truly left me speechless. Lumiere is the future of modern cuisine." His post garnered over 1 million likes overnight. 2 months after opening, I received the news that would define my career. Michelin had sent an inspector to Lumiere. For any chef, this was the moment of a lifetime. Being awarded 1 Michelin star was already a dream. 2 stars were an extraordinary feat. But 3 stars? 3 stars were glory. James Maisonlier leaned in close. Table 7, the man in the black suit dining alone. He could be the Michelin inspector. The man looked calm, composed, not taking notes, just focusing on his meal. I took a deep breath. We had to be perfect tonight. I personally prepared the signature truffle risotto, the dish that defined Lumiere. As the plate was placed before him, I stood in the kitchen holding my breath, watching through the small gap in the door. He took a bite, placed the spoon down, silence, and then a small nod. I knew Lumiere had won him over. 4 months after opening, Lumiere was awarded 3 Michelin stars. A record. No restaurant in Los Angeles had ever achieved this in such a short time. News of Lumiere's success spread worldwide. The New York Times, BBC, CNN, Time magazine, all of them spoke of Lumiere as a global culinary phenomenon. The waiting list stretched to 2 years. The restaurant's revenue exceeded $10 million per year. Sienna Hayes became the most sought-after name in the culinary world. I stood in my kitchen watching my team move seamlessly, their focus sharp, their hands steady. I knew we had created something extraordinary. Yet amid the applause and accolades, a part of me remained empty. My family still hadn't called. No congratulations, no messages. Had they seen me on TV yet? Had they seen my face on the cover of Time magazine? Or did they still believe I was just an ordinary cook? I smirked. It didn't matter. I didn't need them anymore. One morning, like any other, I was perfecting a new dish when Jessica, my receptionist, rushed into the kitchen, her face tense. "Chef, you won't believe this. Your brother, Liam, he just called the restaurant." I froze. "What did he say?" "He wants to book a table, but not for himself, for one of his VIP clients." I let out a small laugh. So he finally recognized my worth, but not as his sister, only as someone with power in this world. "Treat him like any other customer." "I already did," he begged. He said if he couldn't get a table at Lumiere, he'd lose a major client. Then let him lose them. Jessica nodded. She understood. 3 days later I got another call, my mother. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before answering. "Sienna." Her voice was softer than I had ever heard it. "I want to talk to you." I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "I saw your interview in Time magazine. You really did it." I smirked. "You just realized that now?" I was wrong. We were wrong. For the first time in my life, my mother admitted it. But why didn't it make me feel anything? "So what do you want now?" She hesitated. "I want to see you. I want us to have a family dinner." I let out a quiet chuckle. "I invited all of you to my grand opening. No one showed up." I waited. But then I realized I don't have to wait anymore. She was silent. I could hear her heavy breathing over the phone. "Shanna, I'm sorry. I truly am." I closed my eyes, inhaling deeply. "Mom, Lumiere doesn't have special privileges for personal requests. If you want to have dinner here, You can book a reservation like everyone else, but the waiting list is currently 2 years. She choked back emotion. Sienna, are you really going to treat your family this way? No. I'm treating you the way you treated me. I hung up. News of Lumiere's 3-star Michelin achievement dominated headlines. I no longer cared whether my family saw it or not. But then one day I received a letter handwritten from my mother. Asterisk, my dearest, I saw your interview on television. I have never seen you so happy, but I have also never felt so far away from you. I cannot turn back time, but I want you to know that I truly regret everything. If you can forgive me, just give me one chance. I love you, Mom. I placed the letter in a drawer. I didn't respond. They had their chance. They chose to miss it. And now I wasn't looking back. Lumiere had entered a new era, becoming the #1 restaurant in Los Angeles where politicians, movie stars, and billionaires waited 2 years just to get a seat. But tonight was not like any other night. Sarah, my assistant manager, stepped into the kitchen looking slightly uneasy. Chef, there's something you should know. We have 3 special guests on the reservation list tonight. I frowned. Who? Your mother, your father, and Liam. I set my knife down. They actually made a reservation? They waited 2 years to get in? I smirked. So they could be patient when it mattered to them. Serve them like any other guests. You don't want to see them? I shook my head. They're not here for me, they're here for Lumiere. Standing behind the kitchen's glass window, I observed them from a distance. They sat at table 12, the best seat in the house, overlooking the glowing heart of the city. My mother looked uneasy, her eyes scanning the room nervously. Liam sat up straight, trying to appear confident, but I could tell he was tense. My father remained quiet, stirring his wine without drinking it. They ordered Lumiere's signature dishes, the ones that had made this restaurant a legend. Signature truffle risotto, the dish that put Lumiere on the global culinary map. Lobster with saffron butter sauce, the dish that made Michelin take notice. Dark chocolate soufflé, the dessert once served to the President of the United States. One by one, the plates were brought to them. I watched as my mother took her first bite, her eyes welling up with tears. Do you finally understand why I chose this path? After finishing their meal, they didn't leave right away. Jessica, my receptionist, stepped into the kitchen. Chef, they'd like to see you. I glanced outside. They were still at the table looking toward the kitchen waiting. Tell them I'm busy. But they really want to talk to you. I sighed. Maybe it was time to put an end to all of this. I wiped my hands, took off my apron, and stepped out. The moment I appeared, my mother shot to her feet. Sienna. I raised a hand signaling for her to stop. Thank you for dining at Lumiere. My father opened his mouth but said nothing. Liam looked more remorseful than ever. My mother's hands trembled as she placed an envelope on the table in front of me. I don't expect you to forgive us right away, but please read this when you're ready. I stared at the envelope. I didn't touch it. You said the same thing last time. This time it's real, Sienna. We were wrong. I took a deep breath. Do you know what hurts the most? Not that you looked down on me, not that you didn't believe in me, but that when I succeeded, you only came back because you wanted something. My mother's face crumbled. Liam lowered his head. I don't need my family's validation anymore. I've already found my real family. I turned and walked away without looking back. The envelope remained on the table. I left it there. Back in the kitchen, my team was waiting. Everything okay? Maria asked. I smiled. Of course. Now we have a restaurant to run. They had lost me, but I no longer felt pain because of it. I had found my true family, the people who had believed in me from the very beginning. That night when I returned to my office at Lumiere, my mother's envelope was on my desk. I hadn't taken it, but someone must have placed it there. I stared at it for a long time. A part of me wanted to open it to read what she had written. But another part of me asked, did it even matter anymore? After everything, I no longer needed their approval. I picked up the envelope, placed it in my drawer, and locked it away. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because I had come so far that I no longer needed answers from the past. Lumiere was no longer just a 3-star Michelin restaurant. It had become a symbol. The waiting list stretched beyond 3 years. The world's best chef sought to work here. The annual revenue surpassed $30 million. I received an invitation from Harvard Business School to teach culinary management. I was offered book deals, TV shows, and global restaurant expansions, but I knew I didn't need any of that. I never did this for fame. I did this for the love of food, the art, and the people who believed in me. One spring afternoon, I stood in my kitchen, supervising the plating of spring garden ravioli, a new dish inspired by the days I spent as a child in my grandmother's small kitchen. James, my sommelier, walked in with another envelope. "Chef, this one's from Paris." I opened it. The words on the paper stunned me. Invitation to the James Beard Foundation Awards nomination for Chef of the Year. I set the letter down, feeling an unexpected wave of peace. I no longer had to prove anything to anyone. I had won not because I had beaten my family's doubts, but because I had forged my own path. At my first lecture at Harvard, a young student raised their hand and asked, "Chef Hayes, if you could go back in time, would you want your family to support you from the start?" I paused for a moment, then I smiled. "No." The student looked surprised. "Why not?" I took a deep breath, looking around the room full of aspiring chefs, all searching for their own way. Because if they had supported me from the beginning, maybe I would never have become this strong. Maybe I would never have created Lumiere. The room fell silent. Sometimes, losing the support of the people you love is the greatest motivation to stand on your own. The real question isn't whether they believe in you, it's whether you believe in yourself. After the lecture, I returned to Lumiere. Standing by the tall glass windows, I looked out at the dazzling lights of Los Angeles. In the reflection, I saw myself, a woman who had carved her own destiny without needing anyone's approval. I turned back to my desk, opened my grandmother's old recipe book, and began writing a new dish. No more regrets. No more anger. Only one thing remained: freedom. Sienna didn't succeed to make her family regret their choices. She succeeded because she believed in herself and never gave up on her dream. True success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving that you were right to follow your own path. Do you think Sienna was right to teach her family this unforgettable lesson? Share your thoughts in the comments below, so you never miss another incredible stories.